I have you now.
They want to mess with my droid. They're going to pay for it.
This is the way.
You may fire when ready.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long.
Hello there.
Kenobi!
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Darksaber no more. Navarro free at last with the brand new Marshal. And we end with a little adopted boy in a small hut on a farm. Where have we heard that story before? We are saying goodbye to the Mandalorian and Din Grogu for the third time as the sun sets on this adventure, as Season 3 comes to a close. We are here to break everything down from that finale for you. We're going to talk about the whole thing. We're going to talk about the sense of finality it left us with, but that finality does not mean permanence. We're also going to ruminate on what Din Djarin and Grogu's future is with the New Republic, with this budding Imperial threat, and with what we know looms on the horizon from a little bit of tidbits in the last episode and some of the Ahsoka trailer. But I'm not going to get into any of this without my dear co-host, the mysterious missing mythosaur, Colin Archer.
Hey, Carter, man, I'm so looking forward to talking about this. This episode was great. Season 3 was great. Gosh, too many things to cover and a very bright future ahead. But yeah, the first thing we did today, I got up at 3:30 this morning. I'm going to hear me say this throughout the day. I'm very tired. And we did our rapid reactions. Let's listen to those.
He doesn't seem to take a hint, this guy.
That finale was certainly final. It had a final feel to it, more than just for Season 3, and it had a final feel for the series. To me, Colin, what did you think?
Yeah, that's a sentiment I've seen. I've thought about all morning. Carter, I've been up since 3:30 this morning. I woke up happy as kids on Christmas, and now I feel like a family member has gone on a sabbatical. But, man, I tell you what, Grogu was able to accomplish what Kanan Jarrus couldn't. It's really cool.
Keeping the fire back, not dying this time. I liked the parallel between Kanan and Din Grogu. I thought that was really good. I want to see those two paired against each other. And the only reason that Kanan couldn't is he was on top of the explosion. But it was really cool to get to see that parallel, get to see that fire being held back. And like you said, it feels like a family member's on sabbatical. We've had 16 straight weeks of Star Wars. We've had Star Wars nonstop for 16 weeks between the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian, and now we're done until August. It is going to be a weird feeling.
Yeah, and so another thing is, I don't think, did we have any correct prediction at all? And so I'm not disappointed in any sense. I'm actually greatly relieved. The worst rumor I heard, and I didn't believe, thankfully, was that Din Djarin was going to die.
Right.
And this is the most heartwarming, the coolest dang ending that I think that it could be. Outside of some, like, all of my aspirations were extremely lofty. Like, oh, Mythosaur this, and what else is going to happen here? Craziness,
Yeah, no, I understand. I get it. I mean, you're right. All of our predictions were dashed to the side. This episode was not what I think many people were expecting. That tone of finality was not what many people had predicted, especially with Favreau talking about how he already has Season 4 in the pipe and this and that. And I believe they're going to make a Season 4. They have ample means to, but they also have ample means to end this series right here if they wanted, because that ending felt final enough. We know that the characters' stories aren't finished, but for the series, The Mandalorian, it felt like this could be an end. And I don't think it is. I know that we're going to see Season 4 get renewed this week or whatever, or they're already getting ready for production. I don't have any qualms, and I'm happy it's coming back. But the tone of everything just felt like it was done. Gideon's death, I didn't predict that. I saw maybe just one or two people jokingly predicting it online. For it to come to fruition, to allow Grand Admiral Thrawn to kind of assume the stage, is going to be really, really interesting. And I think it was a good decision.
Yeah, with what he was doing in there with his own clones, he was a rogue. guy who was taking up too much. He was too ambitious for what he was able to accomplish. And seriously, Mandalorians, you're going to set up camp in their home. That's not a recipe for success.
Right. Well, and Moff Gideon has made many decisions that are Mandalore altering, but a huge one that he made in this episode was destroying the Darksaber. I mean, it is burnt and buzzing, and I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Well, I mean, and people, I say somebody died, and that was the legacy of the Darksaber. You know, it's a MacGuffin or whatever you want to call it that can be fought over and talked about no longer. You know, it'll sit on a shelf somewhere.
Right. Well, that's really, you know, like you said, the Darksaber basically died. I mean, the Darksaber's a character. The Darksaber's a character that's crossed over through 3 different Star Wars properties, 4 different Star Wars properties. You have the Darksaber always as part of this plot element when we're talking about Mandalorians, just bringing this thread together. So it's a character that passed away, really. I like the way that you put that. And then I want to focus in on the titles for a second. Not just the title of this episode, the title of last episode. You know, we had a week where everyone was speculating who the spies were. I didn't see any spies. I didn't get any inclination that there was a spy here.
No, I mean, none whatsoever. Axe Woes completely redeemed or not redeemed. I mean, true to his character and everything throughout, right? I mean, he's a supreme hero, ending the conflict in that little thing. And then the survivors, you know, giving hope for Mandalore with the caves and restarting the food supply there. And then the armor, whacking people in the face with their hammer. I don't think it's any clearer that we were wrong on this stuff.
Right. No, you're right. And then the title of this episode was The Return. And I was curious on what that could mean. Because that could mean Moff Gideon's return again. You know, he's back again. He's trying once again. But I think what it really was it is the return to Mandalore. It is all of the Mandalorians finally back at their home.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, that's what the literal thing is. And if there's any double entendre meaning, it's, you know, I feel like at season 3 was a deviation. You know, there's all the rumors of Grogu is supposed to be with Luke Skywalker and all the stuff swirling around that. So this season 3 seems like a sidestep from the plot. And now we're returning to, I mean, that's how this ended.
Right.
You know, this is the space cowboy. You know, he said to Carson Tava at the end, I'm a bounty hunter by trade, but I want to be on the right side of you guys. So let's figure things out. And so it's the return to the regular show.
Right. Well, we've got to return to form. I mean, we can definitely set the square back, and there's no setup conflict. Obviously, conflict will arise through the retaking of Mandalore and through hunting Imperial warlords, but Season 4, Episode 1, I think we're just going to get Dan on a bounty adventure like we did Season 1, Episode 1. Right. I think that's all that we can do.
I know Season 4 is written, but whatever occurs is going to occur after what happens in Ahsoka, so maybe there'll be some tie-ins or some other stuff to go along with that, though we'll get to see some fun stuff.
Yep, you're right. Well, Colin, you know, let's jump out of these rapid reactions. Let's head over, and now we'll deliver our full meaty takes for the rest of the episode.
Excellent.
Those were our rapid reactions. Colin, you know, you said you woke up at 3:30. I was up, you know, a little later than you. I was up around 5. We gave it a watch. We came and recorded as soon as we could. And, you know, from that recording, you can tell I was a little tired, but it's not really just tiredness. I'll admit that out of the gate, after the end of that finale, I was a little bummed out. I don't know how it jived with me because it didn't live up to my expectations. And that's something that you got to remember as a Star Wars fan, is you got to check your expectations at the door. Fan speculation is an inherent part of this franchise, but you can't take it too far and get disappointed when your wild speculation doesn't pan out. And so throughout the day and on the second watch through, I really enjoyed this episode, like a lot. It went just throughout the day, you could see my enjoyment as I thought about the episode, and as I knew my expectations were not going to be met, my enjoyment rose throughout the day.
No, you're exactly right. Same exact thing happened to me. I didn't have the luxury of watching a second time today, but I did scroll back and watch several scenes that I liked, particularly the fight scenes and the end scenes. But, you said, what is it? Speculation. We speculate a lot. We have a whole segment on it, right? But so many instances of what our predictions were that failed. Were they really? I mean, we try to do the best we can based on the evidence that we're given, and it's the breadcrumbs that the writers and the showrunners make in this show. And so, there were so many instances that led up to what we thought our predictions were going to be, and it didn't come to fruition. I think the most widely talked about rumor, based on real life events and some stuff that people think was telegraphed in the show. I didn't think this was true, but the most widely talked about quote unquote rumor was that Din Djarin was going to be killed. And that came close. It didn't occur.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a wild rumor, but a bunch of people bought into it. People that I worked with who are casual fans of The Mandalorian, they were like, I heard that Din's going to die next episode. And I was like, what? Where'd you hear that? Like, what, r/Star Wars leaks? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So my point is that between spies, between Grogu talking, between rumors unfounded and all these other breadcrumb type rumors, we were misled. And combined with, we were overthought this a little bit,
right?
To where, I don't think it's right to say, but it's easy to fall in the trap of this episode didn't live up to our expectations. Well, if all of your expectations are imaginary, that statement's not true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I think you're totally right. There was not a lot of basis for some of the speculation that we had out there. There was some this isn't generalizing about. We're not talking about any one individual. We're not talking about just ourselves. We're talking about the Star Wars community as a whole. There's a lot of speculation out there, and most of it didn't pan out this episode. And some of it was just, educated guessing, and some of it was just flat out fake. They were just rumors that didn't come to fruition. There's some Twitter accounts out there that definitely made that seem the case. But then, there was some actor commentary that people were reading too deep into, and there's just a lot. And so, like you said, when you take all of that out and you walk in and you just see this is a good bow to the end of the season. They got Mandalore back. That was the mission of this season from the beginning, from the first episode, proving that Mandalore was habitable. Din does this. He says, look, I have this rock from Mandalore. Someone says they got it on the surface. I'm going there to be redeemed.
Right. And better than I could have even imagined. We saw with the caves that the surviving Mandos had developed.
I know.
And it was 2 or 3 sentences, but they're so critical to the success of rebuilt Mandalore. These were crops and fauna, flora and fauna that was gone before the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Yep, gone before Bo-Katan's time.
Right. And that had reconstituted itself, sort of like a Genesis thing from Star Trek.
Yeah, the room. It looks. I think it looked like Star Trek. I got the Wrath of Khan vibe there too. They're in this giant cavern full of plants. It looks like Wrath of Khan. I agree.
But that is so critical to the success of Mandalore. If they had to import all of their resources, it was going to be a very rigorous endeavor to rebuild Mandalore. Now. I'll make the claim we're going to get some sort of Ilum situation where we look up and it's converted into a Starkiller base. We're going to look up in season 5 of The Mandalorian, and we've got dome cities and commerce and all kinds of stuff going on with Bo-Katan and who knows what.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we're going to see some rapid progression. So like we said, we woke up early this morning like we do for every Mandalorian episode. Get out of bed, grab my cup of espresso, go to sit down. And I had just been complaining to you 2 days ago that there were no character posters released for The Mandalorian the classic Star Wars heads and bodies on a poster, all the characters smashed together. And lo and behold, on Disney Plus, log in and boom, it is right there. It's the art that they're using for this season and for the last episode. It was really cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold my cards close to the chest to the end of the show. I've got something secret.
Okay.
About that subject.
So the episode directed by Rick Famuyiwa, did the first one, did the penultimate episode, gave him the ultimate episode in a two-parter. Written by Jon Favreau, no Dave Filoni on this one, just Favreau. And so they did a great job. Credit to those guys. They knock it out of the park every time. Famuyiwa deserves his own Star Wars project. I mean, it's just the directorial decisions in the episodes that he specifically directed were super quality. But when you get into the meat of the episode, first thing we see, Axe Woves jetting up to the fleet. He's got his suit pressurized, and he's going into low atmosphere with those. And I think that was the only prediction that we got right from last episode.
Right. And that was your prediction. And that was cool. Like you had specifically said, the fleet's in low orbit, and he's going to get there. Pressurized helmets, we knew that from being underwater early in the season.
Right.
And so, again, everything's there for this to be functional. There might be some critics out there, how does jetpack last so long? But whatever.
Sure.
And then he's a major hero in this episode.
Right. Well, I've seen some people complain, they were chasing the bird dragon creature on that planet that their covert was on, and their jetpacks ran out there, but he could make it all the way to space.
We don't know how far they went.
Exactly. We have no idea how far they went. So it's a weird critique when you have no idea the distance that they traveled. But anyway, continuing to move through, you've got Axe jetting up to the fleet. He's on the comms with Bo-Katan. And then we cut to Din being hauled off by the two Imperial Super Commandos. And it is just the coolest, nastiest, knockdown, drag-out fight we've seen this season with Din.
Was that Din Djarin or John Wick Din Djarin?
Right.
That scene was awesome.
I know. It was awesome. It was super cool.
And then, man, I really... Grogu comes in and rescues him.
Yes.
Mecha Grogu.
Yeah, exactly. In IG-12, Grogu grabs the gun, bends the barrel. He's not going to let his dad get shot. And really, every time Din's in a pickle in this episode, Grogu comes to his side. Grogu comes to the rescue, which has been a consistent theme. But in this one, it was just like, we're going to talk about it more in a little while, but the way that the family was functioning was really, really cool.
No, it's off the charts. And, I've seen some other comments out there criticizing, well, how did Grogu find Din Djarin? I'm sorry, a Force-sensitive child in a mech that can move just as fast as any human can is going to get to where he wants to go.
Right. He's not with...
This isn't an issue.
He's not with Bo, and he's not with the rest of the Mandalorians in those shots at the beginning of this episode. That was my first thing. As soon as I saw those shots was, where's IG-12? He's not there. Oh, they must not have cut him into this shot. And then it makes sense why he's not there, because he's going after Din.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there are people out there that want to poke holes. There's people, as everybody knows, there are people on the internet rooting for Star Wars to fail because they make money off of Star Wars doing badly.
Right.
We don't. That's not what our gig is here. And so when we see people try to poke these little nitpick holes in there, it's not healthy, it's not constructive, and it's not helping Star Wars.
Well, and that's too easy. That's the shortest path to clicks and whatever else.
Right.
And especially if it's not true.
Yeah.
It's not.
Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny.
That's right.
And so that's the exact same message here. But so, like we said, Grogu throughout this has been helping Din. And then Din, after he's freed, gets Grogu to cut him loose. And then he looks at him and he says, if we don't take out Moff Gideon, this will never end. Are you with me? And Grogu just nods. And at this moment, I knew Moff Gideon had screwed up. Like, I felt like this was telegraphing, this is Moff Gideon's last episode.
And this was it. I mean, but so much happens after this. But gosh, you can't, how else do you put this? Sorry, man. Just seeing these two together, mech or not, and then what happens later, so thrilling.
Well, Grogu is supremely more capable than he was when we found him at season 1. He lifts the Mudhorn in season 1, and he's really strong with the Force, and then he's knocked out, tuckered out. But now he's powerful. He can respond with this mech suit. Like, he knows what's going on. Grogu is becoming more and more of a character and less of a MacGuffin.
Way higher.
Oh, yes. Much, much higher. Next scene, we get a really cool wing shot and deployment of the interceptors here. This was really cool. Just the way they would deploy, kind of bounce for a second, and then jet out of the tunnel. I really just liked the way that they did this whole deployment sequence for all the interceptors.
Yeah. And then, right, so since we brought the interceptors, one of the predictions that fell a little short was a space battle.
Yes, that was our first prediction that I felt was blown up completely, was that no space battle. I mean, you can't really call what happened a battle.
And so this is another thing that leads to, I'm happy with how it turned out. Don't get me wrong. If there's a space battle, I'm going to be jumping on my chair, hooting and hollering, all this stuff going on, because the Mandos, they're not just random, they're not TIE fighter pilots in Mando ships. They're Mandalorians. And so I was hoping for some epic thing, but that wasn't the case, obviously. And I know I'm jumping the gun just a tad, but, the Mandalorians end up in the Comric fighters, going to support Bo-Katan and the rest of the people that remained on the planet. And the space battle was averted. And so it leads to greater stuff down the episode, but it shows what the Mandalorians are capable of, not just in their jet fighters. And it leads to a better story in the short term that we're fixing to talk about.
No, you're absolutely right. And, we want a space battle. Obviously, we always want space battles. It's a classic part of Star Wars. But the story didn't need it here. My speculation was that we were going to see an episode of failure, that it was, going to be an Empire victory. That was certainly wrong. And I think the space battle is really only conducive to that being the case. And so I was happy that we didn't get the space battle because of the results, like you said. We then, after the awesome interceptor deployment shot, Super Commando comes, tells Moff Gideon, interceptors are deployed to get the fleet. Moff Gideon says, cool, but the Mandalorian and the child have escaped. And so the Super Commando,
on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows exactly where they're at.
The Super Commando says, okay, well, do you want me to send out a deployment or something like that? And Moff Gideon, he is channeling his Vader. He's got the black armor on, got the helmet, puts his helmet on. I'll take care of them myself. Nearly exact same line. Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi. Just another nod to the original trilogy right here.
Right. So cool.
And so we get that cool Vader parallel. We get this awesome armor that I think, like we talked about in the last episode where it debuted, we're going to see people in the 501st Legion sporting this. We're going to have the Mando merc sporting this.
Whoever's first to market on this Moff Gideon costume is going to be.
It's a good looking costume. It's a really good looking costume.
It's all voice modulated, really cool.
I know. And then we get even more into how the suit works here in just a little while.
Right. One thing that we'll mention is so many rumors and so much speculation throughout all seasons of The Mandalorian is the spikes on the helmet. Does it have something to do with Maul's Death Watch?
Right.
Or Maul's this or that? No mention.
No, not at all.
None at all.
No illusion.
So,
and I'm frankly happy with that.
Yeah, it's a decoration.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. If you think anything else, you're overthinking it.
Right.
That's the facts.
It kind of looks like a crown. Kind of looks like he was going for like a crown look because of the way they're positioned.
Right. Well, and that would fit his arrogance style.
Yeah, it would.
To the T.
Yes, it would. Much more than being any kind of Maul homage. So the next little bit we get Din gets a hold of R5, who's planet side now.
Scenes.
I know. He says, we need you to come scomp in. So R5 takes a long plunge with his jet boosters down to find a scomp link. The puppet looks really good on this background.
So fantastic.
Like, you got a scene where it is just a puppet. Like, it's nothing else. It's just this little R5 puppet robot, and it looks really good, and it's funny, and it feels really classic Star Wars. It feels A New Hope. It feels Death Star.
It feels all this stuff. It feels Revenge of the Sith with R2 and the Babe, man. It's such a quintessential Star Wars effect that it's so good to see.
I know.
That we get these astromechs who are so capable.
Right.
So fun. And then the mouse droids. They find him.
Yes, and then the mouse droids. That was a good comedy bit all around. So we have R5 getting to work right there. He jets down. Then we've got Axe Woves. We cut back to him. He has gotten to the ship. He has evacuated the whole ship, told everyone, get off, get to the drop ships. We're going down to take the fight to the surface. I'll stay in the light cruiser. And this is where some people might have been like, ooh, Axe Woves might be the spy. But Axe Woves,
to their desk or something.
Exactly. But Axe Woves gets behind the wheel of the Imperial cruiser, sets the guns to auto fire, and is just sitting there getting ripped apart by bombers and interceptors.
He's navigating this thing. He's like moving in their path. Someone run into the thing, I think.
Yep.
It was like really cool scenes.
It was. And you think certainly Axe is going to die here, but he's going to go out with this heroic death. It's, we don't have much of Axe Woves before this. We get his lines in Guns for Hire and his lines in the last episode. And so we haven't got a whole lot, but right here you're like, oh yeah, this guy isn't just a jerk. And so we see the space battle expectation get blown up here, which, like we've already said, is fine. The drop ships have entered the atmosphere. The interceptors come out. The smaller scale space battle ensues. And then we get back down to Din and Grogu. Din getting R5 to release the ray shields incrementally so he can fight 2 super commandos at a time.
Yeah, talk about a callback.
It was really good. Exactly. It's a callback to the Phantom Menace, the exact way that those hallways looked, and those super commandos can't get through.
They can't. Do they even get a hit on Din on these things? He just kicks their butt.
I know. He destroys them. He loses the blaster in the first shot. He's going hand to hand, just knives. It's super cool. He's like wrestling them. The whole sequence is really neat. And is this now Din's definitive hallway scene?
I'd say so.
We got Maul, Vader, Luke all have hallway scenes that parallel each other. Then in the Kenobi series, we get a fight scene in a hallway that's not the same walking down a hallway, but just like Din's.
We're going to have one in Ahsoka.
Yes, yeah. We're going to have, we know we have Balin's. You're right. We have Balin's in Ahsoka, and I'm sure we're going to have one for Ahsoka. Right, Every character is going to get a hallway scene someday. We're going to see Jar Jar's hallway scene in 15 years.
Oh, my goodness. No, Keller and Beck, get it right.
Yeah, you're right. Keller and Beck's hallway scene.
But yeah, this was such a cool callback. I mean, I think the sound effects are even real similar when the shields shut off. Mm-hmm. And then another emotive thing with these guys wearing armor, he knocks out 2 of the guys. Shield goes down. Knocks out 2 of the guys. Shield goes down. So and these guys, their weapons are getting kind of tougher as this fight progresses, right?
It felt real video game to me. It felt like a video game progression.
And Din is showing no signs of slowing down. And as they get towards the end, it's like 6 sets of these guys or something. You can see the apprehension on their faces towards the end. They're like, oh my, we're not in for this.
Their body language is, they're like, what is, they can't see through the smoke that's being caused. So there's a few, I want to comment on their weapons because you had mentioned them, is the second group of Mandalorians, they're holding riot shields and like electro batons that look like a smaller version of the one the Stormtrooper in The Force Awakens is wielding that fights Finn on Takodana.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they look like they're like prototype versions of those. And then Din gets through those guys, grabs a riot shield, has his blaster pistol, and he and another super commando are 2 feet apart, just blasting each other's shields. It is
John Wick scene.
It was like, yeah, but this was like not meant to be funny, and I only thought it was funny. I'm like laughing the whole time. They're right there. They are 2 feet. There's a chasm behind each of them, and they're just sitting there, hiding behind their shields, shooting each other's shields, not even like pretending to aim for anything but the shield, while they're trying to get R5 to take down the ray shield. And so it was funny. It was a little goofy, but I liked it. And so R5 can't bring down the ray shield because he's being terrorized by police mouse droids.
Yeah, the sounds on them are so cool.
They got the little high-pitched siren like a cop car. Like if you imagined a cop car that the Smurfs would drive around in, that's what it sounds like.
But I'm not doing that justice.
And it's really funny. And so R5 kills 2 of these mouse droids, knocks them into a pit. He gets his job done and flies away, and that allows Din to get through and finish off the rest of the super commandos. And then we know what's beyond this room. It's the cloning chamber. And this is where we get all this exposition. is Grogu goes up to look at one of the cloning chambers, and in it, the eyes of the clone open, and it's Moff Gideon.
Yeah, this was the big reveal for the whole season, and for all 3 seasons, really.
Right.
Because, I don't think it has anything to do with what we saw in Bad Batch. I think there's, some more stuff going on.
Sure,
but
I agree.
What did this have to do with strand casting?
Right.
I mean, obviously it did, but I kind of want to know more. I kind of think they left us like Dr. Pershing wasn't in this. Was the actor not available or something? Where is he hiding in the corner?
Right.
Or something.
You're totally right. And we see, like you said, this has implications for like cloning technology, but we don't know who all has this information. We know that Gideon hasn't been sharing cloning information with the rest of the Shadow Council. Moff Gideon may very well have set back Palpatine's return by 25 years.
Well, and I'll say, these look like Juan Carlo Esposito in a bacta tank or what cloning chamber or something, and these weren't like Snoke-esque style messed up clones or some sort of strand cast that, and then some other comments are, and I know this goes back to the extended universe and stuff, but if you're cloning a Jedi or you're taking some sort of blood samples from a Force sensitive person and trying to transplant that into a non-Force sensitive person, and you're capable of cloning them, that seems like a hurdle to translate from A to B. Right? If you're talking about a clone of A who's Force sensitive, why not make a clone of A?
Well, see, in the old expanded universe,
and then you'd have all this Force, like you'd have Dark Grogu.
Right. In the expanded universe, the answer was that if you purely clone a Force user, they'll go mad. That something about cloning a Force user causes that clone to go insane. And so, it's either dangerous or it kills itself or whatever.
We don't get that exposition here at all.
No, we don't. But well, from Gideon's lines here in just a second, I think that his clones were viable. I think that. So this is why I say I think Gideon set back Palpatine's cloning experiment by 25 years because he unlocked it. He found the key. Gideon could do this. He could clone a Force sensitive. He could imbue Force powers into a non-Force sensitive. From his dialogue, it makes it sound like it worked. Din foils this plan, and he scrambled Pershing's brains already. And if the Mandalorian base is the only place with this information, nobody else knows, and they're starting, not from square zero on cloning technology, but as far as strand casting goes, they have this 25-year gap to now make up.
Yeah, all of this lost with Dr. Pershing. Exactly right.
Right, and so that's just we really get the confirmation here. Gideon is out for himself. He's wrapped up in himself. He was not the future of the First Order. He wasn't a founder of the First Order. This is all about him, his Imperial remnant, and he's like a warlord in like the true sense in these scenes, and that he only cares about himself and about his empire and about his ambition. He's not a Palpatine sycophant. He's not a Thrawn sycophant. He's not anything.
And he's not really even to help out the rest of the Shadow Council.
Yes.
He'll take from them,
right,
but he won't give to them.
Yeah, exactly. He was hiding the cloning tech. And so we get all of this exposition in the cloning dialogue right here. We get Moff Gideon and Din's conversation right here. And then we get a cut back to what's happened to the survivors and to Bo-Katan and to the Mandalorians on the ground. They had to flee the Super Commandos. They found a place of refuge. And this place of refuge is a little cave, a pocket that we already talked about, full of the opportunity agriculture that the survivors were able to cultivate.
A small note, they went into that Great Forge with like 30 Mandos and came out with about 6.
Yes.
So they got their butts kicked.
They did. You're right. They lost a lot of people. And so they land in this opportunity agriculture zone, in this cave where they're growing stuff. And Bo-Katan's like, you guys found plants outside? And they said, no, we grew these. Like, we started agriculture. The soil is viable without all the war happening on Mandalore.
Very cool scene. So impactful.
It's so much. There's so much that this scene offers for the future. This has wide-ranging applications for future Mandalore. This is massive for a recolonization effort. They don't even have to build dome cities anymore.
You're right.
They can have, if the ground is viable and they can cultivate the ground, we could see what old Mandalore looked like. That, as far as any of these people are alive are concerned, none of them even know what that was or what it looked like. That's or anything.
Right. They're going to have to find botanists to figure out what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so they are, after the little crop exposition, we get the armorer's voice. They're coming down in Cormac dropships.
Chills when this happens.
And she says, Lady Kryze, your reinforcements have arrived. And we would like to issue a formal apology from the Star Wars Station Communication Podcast to the armorer. She got drugged through the mud this week. By me, by you, by every Star Wars fan.
That was the second. But we can debate over what was the most prominent rumor out there. It was Din Djarin dying or the armor being a traitor or a spy or whatever. And gosh, yeah, we owe her a very sincere apology.
She had nothing but good intentions. She gave our boy Grogu a rondelle out of the goodness of her heart, and we were like, she is evil.
I think we're going to have to go on a redemption quest, Carter.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to go have to bathe in the mines. So the armorer got drugged through the mud. Axe Woves got drugged through the mud. The survivors were getting trashed. We just met these guys. They pledged their loyalty to Bo-Katan, and we're like, no way.
It was he's shifty-eyed. I don't care.
We're saying no chance. These guys are evil. Look, the whole Star Wars fan base has massive trust issues because no one trusted anybody but Din and Grogu here. I saw speculation that Bo-Katan was the spy. I saw all kinds of spy guesses. And so the spy question was not answered, would you say? I mean, I never found it.
I think, that the episode was called The Spies. And the only one that we know for sure was Elia Kane.
Right.
That's singular. That was my point last episode. And, I don't believe this. I believe it's overthinking, but, this person could be like a double agent and just didn't tip their hand that they gave Moff Gideon all this information. I don't believe that.
No, I would like to insert this into the record, and this is not an original thought. This is not mine, but this is something worth talking about that I found on the internet. I found a few places talking about it. I don't have a source. There's just people commenting things. But that the interviews from a few months ago, Jon Favreau was talking about not Western like cowboy Western, but Western like religious Western, civilizationally Western influences on the show. And so in the Torah, there is a passage that talks about spies, but it doesn't use the term in the same way that we use it today in modern English. The spies in the Torah that they're referencing are like scouts. They're like a scouting party. And so there's many people
like
saying...
you're looking through a looking glass and spying on something.
Yes, exactly. And so there are many people saying that the scouting party from the last episode were the spies in that sense.
I believe that a lot.
And Jon Favreau he went to Hebrew school. Like he was raised reading the Torah, things like that. And so I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that was the intention.
This season especially, so much stuff has double meanings.
Right.
The Mandalorian.
Right.
Is that, we started with the Grogu, with Din Djarin for sure, seasons 1 and 2. But you can't say that about season 3.
Right, exactly. You're right. Every episode title was a double entendre. The convert, the apostate, all of it. They were all double entendres.
Yeah. They got us.
Yeah, they got us. Clowned on us, Jon Favreau. Thanks. So anyway, after all the Mandalorians reunite, they drop out of the dropship, and we get a really cool shot of the armorer and Bo-Katan flying beside each other, with all the Mandalorians behind them in their jetpacks as Bo-Katan unsheathes the Darksaber in like a 16th century cavalry style charge.
Air cavalry.
It was so cool, man.
So, man, this is the scene. I kind of wish it had gone on a little longer just for my own enjoyment, right? But we've only seen this in a cartoon.
I know. And I don't think on this scale we ever saw it.
No, not on this scale. So this is probably one of the primary reasons that this episode is growing on me. And why I want them to last longer, because these fights were beyond cool.
There were the choreography on this is insane.
My goodness.
Crazy.
They should have had like a mini hero in with these Mandalorian super commandos to do this.
Yep.
Well, but whatever. Fantastic stuff going on here.
Yeah. This was we predicted the space battle. This was as good, if not better, than getting a space battle because it was so new. It was something we hadn't seen much of.
Reunited as the title. What was the title?
The title of the show is The Return.
The Mandalorians Return to Mandalore
Yep.
versus the Interlopers, who with their stolen Mandalorian technology.
Right.
Such a cool fight scene.
It was awesome. I mean, it was really good. Dude, the armorer was nasty in the air. She was bashing people in the skull with that hammer.
Right. And she didn't have a gun. She was a melee combat only and just trashing fools left and right.
Yes, and she had her jetpack, gold jetpack.
I pity the person on the other end of that hammer, man.
I know.
They
it
got
was
their
awesome.
face caved in. It was not fun.
It was. And then later in the battle, this is so some scenes are between this, but I want to reference it now while we're talking about all the cool stuff. In that Koska Reeves kills her jetpack, slides across metal on her knees, goes to her back, turns her jetpack on, and then knee rockets two people in the chest, Boba Fett style. It's like the craziest. Who sat there and was like, this choreography would be perfect? I can't even imagine doing 2D choreography like they did for the Duel of the Fates. This is 3D choreography fighting. My brain doesn't even work on the 3D plane like that, like these people who choreograph this stuff do.
Yeah, and that whole 3D combat aspect is why the Mandalorians are superior. Because they can fight in 3 dimensions. Stormtroopers and most other people, that's probably why they're so ineffective, is because they're not used to this.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's just amazing to get to see the way people are able to think of the way Mandalorians fight, the way that the Mandalorians are able to overcome different obstacles, and then when they're stuck fighting people who are just like them, the real way we get to see them fight is just so cool.
And they trashed all these super commandos. It was not the super commandos got rolled. Barely even a fair fight, or not even at all.
Right. No, you're totally right. It didn't seem like a fair fight at all for the Super Commandos, especially when they got the number of Mandalorians into that fight. It was totally lopsided. It was completely ridiculous in a good way that they just came and wrecked shop. The only person who took multiple people to take them down was Moff Gideon.
Right. So on the other side of the screen, Din gets to the other end of the hallway, and Grogu comes out as well. And Moff Gideon confronts him and gives Din another monologue. What did this monologue say? Do you remember exactly? I got the notes here.
Yeah. Go ahead. If you've got the notes there, you go ahead and deliver the monologue. What I wanted to do real quick was I was trying to figure out who the stunt coordinator for this season was to give him credit, and his name is Ryan Watson. And Ryan Watson, you've got our long-term praise because it is amazing what you were able to do on a 3D plane with these Mandalorian characters. I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, Gideon's Juan Carlo Esposito, you can hear the really superior acting here. He's very angry that his clones are all dead. And he's basically delivering another bad guy monologue. They were going to be able to wield the Force, and he was going to be an unstoppable. I guess he's going to have a whole gang of himself running around in this Dark Trooper 2 armor with probably lightsabers. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
Right.
And just messing stuff up. But that is not the case. His hopes are dashed.
Mm-hmm. He's pretty gutted that these clones are killed. You can see it on his face that he's looked like he was crying. He's really upset. And this is the first time, we've heard monologues from Gideon. We've seen Gideon be this fearsome bad guy. And a lot of people have always been like, Gideon's a madman. Like, that's his bad guy shtick. I've never really felt too strongly that he was crazy until this episode, when it was clearly on full display, the guy was unhinged.
Yeah. He had a lot of really lofty machinations. Like we find out here that, this is the next Dark Trooper suit. Well, what that really means is he's got some almost Warhammer 40K style Space Marine power armor, or like Green Goblin style power armor, or something like that, right? Because as he's going to punch Din Djarin in this fight, you can hear the mechanical servos.
All the whirs and the clicks, and you see the slamming on the ground with his fist and everything else that he's supercharged.
Din Djarin's holding his own, but he's also getting thwacked quite a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, Din's not dead. Din's getting in a punch or two, but he's definitely
taking it on the chin every single time. Moff Gideon is just too strong for him to take alone. And then, while Moff Gideon is sitting there just dusting Mando, the Praetorian guards walk out. Yeah. And you're like, oh, maybe the rumor's true. Maybe Din really is going to die.
This is where my heart started to jump out of his chest. I mean, because, Din is able to get one punch before he gets subdued. And the sword is at the back of his neck when Mecha Grogu walks out and says, no. But before this, I'm sitting there with palpitations just, oh no.
I know.
I mean, because seriously, we saw what happened to Paz.
Yeah, and we've seen Mando and Paz fight, and they're basically the same skill level. Like, they're right along the same. So having Paz get dusted by the Praetorian Guards, you're like, Din doesn't have a chance.
Punched his way all the way into the scene, killing all these other super commandos, getting just thrown around by Moff Gideon. You know what? It's not going to turn out good until Mecha Grogu comes in to save the day.
Right. And they've got the animatronic down on his face really good because he looks so angry.
Yeah, he looks very intense.
Grogu looks mad because they got really good at making him look sad or scared. This time is maybe the first time we've seen Grogu look pissed off. Yeah. He's mad. And so they did a really good job with the animatronic there. And then you see Din freaking out because the Praetorian Guards leave him on the ground and they begin to walk towards Grogu, back him into a corner in that room where the clones were, or where the map was and the Shadow Council was. And it's like, what is going to happen?
Yeah, this is where I start to really get, because obviously they're not going to kill off Grogu, but your mind takes you down that path.
Yeah. In the moment, you're not using reason and dollar signs to think about how he's going to stick around.
But then I switched from the worry to, is Grogu really going to kick all these guys' butts off screen?
I know.
No, don't do that to us.
Well, and right before they close the door, you have Din scrambling to get up, going after. He's yelling no. It's like the most despair-filled, guttural no. It's painful to hear Pedro Pascal hit those notes like that. And then he just gets rocketed in the back by Gideon, and those doors close. And you're like, man, you feel so much for Din right here. This is backs against the wall.
When if these are ever syndicated, there's going to be a commercial break right here, and that's probably 6 minutes long. And you're going to be like, you're going to have these nervous ticks. What's going to happen?
Right. So we then have that scene that I just referenced with Koska Reeves and her being a total badass, and then we go back to the fight scene. This time it's Grogu and the Praetorian Guards. They take the suit out pretty quick. And I'm happy that the suit's not sticking around. I had said I loved the gag. It was funny. I had nothing against it. Just did not want a full season of Grogu in a mech suit. But then he's able to get out of the suit and he's running around on the lights, on the chandeliers, getting away from the Praetorian Guards, laughing. Exactly. And they can't hit him. It's not even a goofy scene. Like, it's still intense. Like, I'm not looking at it laughing myself, but it is funny watching them try to bat him down with their weapons in their red guard suits. But it was really cool. And then we have Bo come in to help Din. He's on the ropes in his fight with Gideon. Bo is able to knee him in the side of the head, discombobulate him for a second. She says, go help your kid. And so Din's able to go help Grogu.
Cool little scene here. Just that transition from one fighter to another.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we get to see the final showdown between Bo-Katan and Moff Gideon.
Right. Moff Gideon says, are you going to surrender? Are you going to fight? She doesn't say a word but ignite the dartsaber. And then Gideon pulls out a Magna Guard Electro Staff.
Yeah, very cool.
Dude, the shot of that new suit holding the Electro Staff with the pulsing purple electricity, it just looked so good.
Right.
It was an awesome shot.
Yeah. So much anticipation at this point for this fight. Because she's got the darksaber, and it's going to be a knockdown dragout.
Right. And so this sequence right here, you're like, oh, we're about to get into it. But then we cut back to Grogu and Din, where we know we're going to get into it. And Din comes in, rushes in, starts to fight the Praetorian Guards. He's still on the ropes. He cannot handle 3 of these guys by himself. There's no way.
And Grogu he's tripped, or the lie was cut.
Yes.
And it's collapsed onto him. So he's on the ground.
He's about to get killed, but he's about to be. He's seconds away from getting flayed.
When Din comes in and shoots the Praetorian Guard in the back. So they turn to face Din.
Right.
And between Grogu and Din, they dismantle these guys.
It's cute. It's cool. It is awesome. It's so cool to see the way that this gets worked out because Grogu doesn't get tired using the Force anymore. So he sits there as Din's dealing with two of them. A third one's trying to engage. Grogu throws them against a wall, gets their weapon out of their hand. He's just sitting there using the Force to his father's advantage.
He's untouchable.
Exactly.
He's so capable. He's so effective. These guys went from being extremely deadly, and an unparalleled fighting force in the galaxy to completely useless against Grogu and Din Djarin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they look like comic relief after this because they're falling around. It's like if you got this clip, scale the music down, put the Curb Your Enthusiasm music over it, ba-bum, ba-bum. But it would it would totally be that kind of scene because there are weapons on the ground. They're all, you know how when you got to grab something off the ground, you have to make a decision to squat or like hunch over because of the way it's going to look. Yeah. And they're like hunching over to grab something and it gets just scooted between their legs or away from him. And they're like, oh my gosh.
If the music wasn't so serious, it'd be slapsticky.
Yes, exactly. Good point. Exactly. And that's not a critique at all. That is a good thing.
Well, it goes to what kind of simpatico relationship Grogu and Din have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that we haven't seen before.
No.
They have never teamed up to fight a foe. I mean, yes, but it's been like extremely decisive one way or another.
Yes, and it's been one thing, and it's been one save the other, not teamwork.
Not this, like I said, an unstoppable force, right? Or near unstoppable.
Right, you're absolutely right. So we cut to the Imperial light cruiser dropping out of the sky. It took enough hits. Axe Woes is telling Bo-Katan, get everybody out. We have to evacuate. I'm crashing this thing into the base. Basically, he said everything, but I'm coming in hot, which is a good thing that he didn't drop that line. I would have cringed too hard there, but he's coming in hot, bringing down the heat with the Imperial light cruiser. And then we cut back to the Bo and Gideon fight. And we know that Bo heard the message, but there's no lull in this fight. They're at the beginning of the fight, really. I mean, it just started. Right. So we get just back and forth, Bo and Gideon knocking each other, Darksaber, Electro Staff, taking hits and punches. And then Bo goes in for a swing. Gideon grabs her hand and crushes it with his mechanized fist. Not just crushing her hand, which you see her cradling her hand and it looks pretty messed up, but also absolutely just crushing the Darksaber. It's gone. The Darksaber is not functional. And this was a moment that got me the first time. I was just like wide-eyed. I was like, oh my gosh.
Mouth agape. Oh my goodness.
I can't believe they just did that. I can't believe they tossed the Darksaber. But man, when I sat down and thought about it harder, I am so happy they did.
Yeah, this is the one thing that another reason why this episode has grown so much better over the day is because now we don't have this MacGuffin just being this silly thing that people fight over.
Right. It is all about Bo-Katan's message this entire season is that we needed something to rally around. We need Mandalorians to unify. The only thing they're unifying around is this stupid sword. She thinks it's ridiculous. She's already had it twice. She thinks that this thing is just, worthless. It's not any good. Because all it does is cause division. Because as soon as they unify, they're going to tear each other apart for who gets to wield that thing. Yeah. And that Mandalorians are stronger together. And so when you no longer have the blade, you see the Mandalorians are united by creed alone. They're not united by blood. They're not united by anything except for the creed that they all believe in, the Mandalorianism. This is, like I said, we've already talked about Favreau's interviews with Western influences through the series. I mean, this is a parallel to the United States. I mean, it's a parallel to the way that countries are formed on ethnic lines, countries are formed on racial lines, things like that, except the United States was formed on a creedal basis. It was formed on like-minded ideas. That's the exact same way that these Mandalorians are. That's as far as the parallels between Mandalore and the United States go. It's not that deep, but it is something to understand that in our own world, we have the notion of a creedal nation. It's the same thing here.
Different factions can coexist together successfully.
Exactly. That they don't all have to be a hive mind to be able to function together. And that's clear. We have 3 distinct factions just in this Mandalorian group, let alone the diaspora.
And yeah, we'll find out later there's hundreds of thousands of Mandalorians out there, I'd assume.
Right. So Bo-Katan's hands crushed, Darksaber's crushed. Gideon says, "You have nothing left." Yada, yada, yada.
The Darksaber. The Mandalorians and their trinkets are nothing without their trinkets.
Yes. And then Bo-Katan just says, "Mandalorians are stronger together." And it's family time. Dom Toretto, eat your heart out because this is amazing. Din comes in.
Oh my God.
Blaster blasting Gideon in the back. He turns around. They get into a scrap. Bo-Katan comes in. Gideon's firing. Now Din, she blocks with her buckler. Grogu's there manipulating Gideon with the Force. It's the whole family is firing on all cylinders. Bo jumps in to protect Din after he saved her, after Grogu saved him, after she saved Grogu. It's just over and over. They're watching each other's backs. They're like a well-oiled machine. I was over the moon to see this.
Yeah, and such a cool scene, too. So, in the background at this time, Axe-Wove is, don't forget, he's crashing the cruiser, and he gets out safely, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't mention that.
Die.
Right.
He looks out the window, shoots it open, jumps out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's not like the scene's going to miss, right?
Right.
And so, like, this is the pressure in the background that this thing's fixing to crash, and it's like they are ripping Moff Gideon to shreds. And so, oh my gosh, just as these scenes are so cool. Like, I really love just now how you're describing how motivated and, you know, your voice was so impassioned about it. That's how I feel too. Because man, I have to go watch this again for this scene alone.
I know,
and I need to watch it with like really like you got to watch this with really loud music. Turn the bass up. But yeah, so pumped about this whole fight scene. Very cool. But like, so did Grogu, did he push Moff Gideon into the fire? Like, because the ship's coming down, right? About to crash and blow everything up. And like, I need to watch it again. You've seen it twice. Did Grogu push him into the fire? It looked like he pushed him to the edge to me and the fire came and got him.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that Grogu, he pushed his weapon off of the cliff, and then he pushes Gideon back, not off the edge, and not into the fire, but the fire is expanding really quickly at Gideon. And so I think that as the fire consumes Gideon, you were just talking about the music. They did a good job with the music this episode because they used every kind of Mando music. Because, you know, it's all really the same theme, but with different instruments.
Right.
In this one, it's like the orchestral fanfare. It's like, it sounds more John Williams than anything else. And it's just Gideon getting consumed by these flames. Wah, 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 on like a violin. I mean, it sounds so good.
And Gideon is dead.
Yes.
He's not coming back. He's not going to be some charred corpse in armor that makes noises and strolls around, and then he's back again. You know, like you said, Juan Carlo is a great actor, but he's got a fantastic story across these 3 seasons, and his song has been written.
Right. Legacies get tarnished with bringing back characters a lot of the time. You know, we're usually, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, we're anti-bringing back the dead because I said this on our last podcast, I don't want to see Mace Windu come back. I think that he died, he's there, people really want to see it, but that's just fan service. And it'd be the same for Gideon. We watched his body get immolated, and to me, it feels like the only way Star Wars feels comfortable killing anybody is if you immolate them, where there's nothing left.
Reduced to ash.
If you haven't been reduced to ash, then your character might come back, and that's not a trend that I'm a fan of.
Yeah, and if they pull something like somehow Moff Gideon returns, I'm still watching. I'll probably roll my eyes a little bit, but that's not going to happen. Don't overthink this. He's not coming back.
Right. And so, as the fire's expanding, we see the family all together. Bo was just protecting Grogu with her buckler from blaster shots. Now, we get Grogu projecting his force barrier around and allowing the flames to lick around the whole family without anyone being scathed. And Grogu is protecting the 3 of them in his force barrier. It is an awesome scene.
And he does it successfully. The fire extinguishes, and he sits down, his little self tuckered out. It's so cute.
Oh, it is so cute. He just hits it on the ground with his little bum. I want to go back just a little bit on the parallels here with the fire, because there's a couple things going on here that we have to point out. Grogu is in this fire. He is repelling it. And the first thing that we have to note is that this is a total upgrade from what he did in season 1. In season 1, he blocks fire.
So much more powerful.
Exactly. He might sit down. He might get a little tired, but he's not like asleep like he was in season 1. He has become so much more powerful. This is so much more flame, and Grogu is able to withhold it. So we see a definitive growth path for him here from season 1 to season 3. His time spent with Luke, his time spent with the Mandalorians, it's all come together to improve him as a Force user.
And not only that, growing in the Force, growing in confidence. I think we've already mentioned this. Growing in so much confidence in fighting with the rest of the Mandalorian team, and especially Mama Bo and Din Djarin.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. And so we also have the parallel with Kanan Jarrus from Rebels. Kanan Jarrus,
so powerful.
I know. He dies in Jedi Knight, the episode where he's holding back the flame, and spoilers, I guess, for Rebels, sorry.
Yeah.
But he dies holding back the flame, protecting his family, and it's in the same style. It's the same Force barrier. We posted on Twitter and in our Discord parallel shots, back shot behind Grogu and behind Kanan Jarrus.
It's the same thing, different characters.
Exactly, identical, same thing. To quote George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Right.
Great. We mentioned this in our rapid reaction, but to just get deeper into it, Jedi Knight is my favorite episode of Rebels. Rebels is my favorite Star Wars TV show. It's my favorite non-George Lucas product. And so when we had this episode come out, it was devastating. It was just really emotionally tugging. But Kanan passes away. The flame consumes him because he's standing on top of the explosives.
Yeah. I actually reviewed this. It's like an oil container. The Empire shoots it, and it's around a bunch of other oil containers. It's a massive explosion.
Right.
You talk immolation. He was immolated and disintegrated.
Yes. Kanan is not coming back. But funnily enough, I just watched Jedi Knight last night.
So this was extra impactful for you.
It was so fresh.
You had no idea this was coming either.
I didn't. I had no clue. It's 6 hours before I watched Grogu block those flames. I watched Kanan block those flames because it was finished Jedi Knight, went straight to bed, woke up and watched this. And so it was really good for me to get to see that. And we have a little bit of information about why I was watching Jedi Knight. We'll share with you guys here in just a little while. But to continue through this episode, the other thing that I'd like to touch on when looking at this scene is that Din and Bo are in the Force barrier with Grogu. He's protecting them. He's got the flames licking off them. And if you look closely, you slow it way down and you zoom in and you enhance. You get to see Din's helmet and Bo-Katan's face, touch each other in what could only be a Mandalorian kiss, basically.
Right. As best they can, for sure.
Exactly. And so I think that this is good enough confirmation in the relationship that I've been hammering away at, that people have been wanting, in that Din and Bo are an item. And I hope that's the case. Yes.
Or Bodin?
Din Bo. Bowden. Whatever the acronym may be, or whatever that word is may be.
No, it's a fantastic idea. I love that. Mama Bo, please.
Right. And so I'm not sure what the portmanteau is, but I do know that they kissed, and that was it. That's all we get for people who were supporting this relationship, this budding relationship for Grogu's mother.
I mean, because there's no guarantee they're going to survive this. Anybody, if you're next to Yoda, you don't know this guy.
Yep.
And Grogu's a child, so it's going to be like, is this the end?
I know, and they don't finish the episode together. That's a little sketchy, but we get to see this touching moment, and all I could think about while I saw it was, so when the sequel trilogy came out, I was not a hater of the Rey Kylo romance idea. I was not a supporter. I was not either of those. I was ambivalent. Yeah, like it happened in Tross. And I liked it. I was happy it happened. I think in hindsight, I probably am a supporter of the relationship, but I didn't go into any one of those movies being like, we have to get this.
Right.
And so.
But you are with Din Bo.
I am with Din Bo. And now I think I know exactly how Reylos felt, because they walked out of the theater, out of the Rise of Skywalker, and they're like, well, we got it for 5 minutes, and now Ben Solo's dead. And I feel the same way. Not that either of these characters are dead, but We got some vague in the corner of a shot kiss confirmation, maybe. And I'm as disappointed. I feel your pain, Raylos. I get it now. I understand. So,
man, such great scenes here.
You're right. So we get a fade out of the family looking on to the destruction of the Imperial base. The mission is accomplished, and it opens onto Ragnar's baptism. They call it being added to the song. And so for Ragnar to be added to the song, he never finished his at the beginning of the first episode.
All kinds of dinosaurs.
Right.
And we know the mythosaur down there. I thought he was going to track it again. I'm like, oh no, what are they doing?
Right.
And I kind of got, like, one of my speculations was that there's going to be some interaction with the mythosaur. It's going to be and I thought, oh, it's going to happen.
Right. And so we see Ragnar getting added to the song. He finishes, and then we have Grogu saunter up there, and Din says, I am his ward. I want him to take the creed and become an apprentice. And the armorer says he can't because he can't talk. And then Din says, well, what if his parents consent? And the armorer's like, we don't know who those people are. We don't know where they are, and they could be dead. So that's not really that good of an option. Right. Kind of the same thing she said about the Mines of Mandalore, but I don't think Din wants to go hunting the galaxy for whatever spawned Grogu, because we don't even know what that is.
If they even exist. I mean, it's a speculation on her part.
Exactly. And so Din says that I will adopt him so he may become my apprentice. And so we get a formal adoption of Grogu. They've already been father and son, but this is putting it down in stone, putting it down in writing. And
adding it to the song.
Adding it to the song. And we get Din Grogu. And what's the deal with that, Colin?
So there's a lot to this. It's all mostly speculation. And so many of it goes back to what we've already seen. You got Bo-Katan Kryze and his sister, what's her sister's name?
Satine
Kryze.
And Corky Kryze.
Corky Kryze, right. You got Boba Fett with his dad, Jango Fett. And we know from the book of Boba Fett, or the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, that Jango Fett was a foundling, right?
Right.
So, there's a lot of surname stuff going on here, but Din Djarin is a foundling. And so he is his own thing. He has his own apprentice now. So he has his own little, clan Mudhorn, right? But he is the progenitor of his own faction. So it might have something to do with like a foundling versus true blood heritage or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but that doesn't feel right to me. I'm sure we'll get some sort of explanation at some point, but I mean, Din Grogu's fine with me.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. Din Grogu is fine with me. I don't have any problem with that. The thing about it is some people have been making hay that this is like that it's weird that it's a first name thing. Like half of the real world, that's how their cultures work. I don't think there needs to be any hay made over the fact that it's a first name being passed down. I think...
Which it would be Grogu Djarin, I guess. But
if it was the last name. But
I don't know.
But the real question is, it's like you said, we have the Kryzes, we have the Fets, we have the Vizslas who have been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, Tar Vizsla all the way down to presumably Ragnar Vizsla.
Right. Like, why is Grogu the exception is the real question. It's not that we have a problem with the way this is done. It's just like we need an explanation.
And I think the only speculation we can make is some sort of foundling thing.
Right. I think you're right. And we'll see. I'm sure that this will be revealed later down the line. But I'm totally cool with Din Grogu. Wikipedia already has that updated. They had it updated like first hour this was out.
But, yeah, and these scenes made my heart just pour out for these characters. I don't know what it is that makes me so emotional about it, but this officialness of Din Djarin being Grogu's dad. I mean, like you said, he was part and parcel the whole time. Start out season 1, he was a mission. Then season 2, that's when the dad thing started for sure. But now it's a irrevocable bond.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so we have Din Grogu, and as he's in the living waters, it pans down beneath the waters, goes all the way down to the mythosaur who opens its eye, and that's it. And there's a little bit of rumbling and a little sound effects, and Grogu kind of feels this. But we don't know anything about this other than that. It's just more mythosaur foreshadowing.
Like, did Grogu know it was a mythosaur, or did he feel something down there, quote unquote? And I think what he did, he knows Bo-Katan saw the mythosaur down there, so surely he knows that that's what's going on.
Right. And we have a lot of evidence to support the fact that Grogu is really in tune with animals and creatures. This is a common Force ability for many Jedi. We see Ezra Bridger have this. We see Count Dooku from Dooku Jedi Lost has this ability. And so Grogu has shown himself to be super adept at that. And so I just think this is continued foreshadowing of some point Grogu is going to have to tame or ride or interact with the Mythosaur.
Yeah, that was our speculation before this, and admittedly it was an overthought thing and cramming too much into the couple episodes, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. But we will see it eventually. It's coming.
There's going to be some sort of interaction and some sort of mega plot point that has to do with Grogu and the Mythosaur.
Yes.
Bar none. I mean, it can't be anybody else.
Right. So we cut to the next scene, and this is Bo-Katan in front of all the Mandalorians. She is reigniting the Forge. In the previous scene, the Armorer is the one who is adding people to the song. And here we have Bo-Katan leading the group. And so I think there's going to be some kind of, dual leadership roles here.
Right. Which the Armorer would represent some sort of religious leadership.
Yes, exactly. She's their spiritual leader.
She's the Mando Pope.
And then Bo-Katan is the political figure.
Right.
And so it's just this kind of mix. And I think that's good. Really good, actually. And the Armorer is still clearly the leader of her faction. These factions have not dissolved. I mean, we've got Mandalorians not wearing helmets. We've got Mandalorians wearing rags. And we've got the Children of the Watch all together.
Their helmets.
Exactly. And so the factionalism is still there, but they're all functioning together. And so that is an important detail also. And so we see here the reignition of the Forge, all the Mandos in a line, and we see Axe Woves begin the For Mandalore chant. And he'll say For Mandalore, then everyone will say it. Then he'll say it, then everyone will say it. And we also see him standing beside Ragnar Vizsla, which a lot of people pointed this out as perhaps this is foreshadowing Axe may adopt Ragnar the same way that Din just adopted Grogu, because presumably Ragnar's master, his dad, died.
Who wasn't mentioned at all in this episode.
Also not on the poster. Kind of crazy. If I had to give one dig to this episode, it's that Paz didn't get a mention for anything he did, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But small little nitpick there. The For Mandalore chant really got me. Like, this is when the good vibes for me were rolling at full force. If it was the last scene for you, it was this scene for me, because
and it's the return. This is what it is. We've been with Mandalore so long. Here it is. What the title's about.
Right.
We've
been with Mandalore. I mean, Mandalore in Star Wars has been around for decades. Mandalore in canon continuity has been around since 2009, and we've spent time with this planet. We've spent more time with this people than any society we ever have in Star Wars. And the constant thread through all of these shows that take place on Mandalore, that have to do with Mandalore, that have to do with Mandalorians, is Bo-Katan. And we've seen her journey this whole time. And so it is so endearing to be able to see this through line traced throughout these shows and see all of this culminate into them being able to retake Mandalore with even maybe the chance of them living on the surface of Mandalore.
Yeah, and not only that, but also they're united under one banner. They're not these disparate factions fighting against each other. I mean, I hope, but that's one of the return meanings of this episode is return to Mandalore, but a return to unity.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And this is what Bo-Katan wanted. And so we're going to see later what kind of challenges may be presented to the society, but we know the Darksaber is no longer one of those.
Right.
So after this Mandalore scene, we follow Din to a ocean planet. Thought maybe he was going on vacation to visit our friends on Pabu.
Get some fishing done.
Yeah, exactly. And
which that'd be well deserved after getting rid of Moff Gideon. Oh, let's go fishing.
Right. He's got to teach Grogu how to fish. It's an important part of the father-son relationship. That's the journeys that the Armorer was talking about. You got to go teach him how to change a tire. Got to go fish.
My son and I played golf today, so it was a great time.
So exact same. You're on your journeys with him, with your apprentice.
Right.
So we have Din land on Adelphi, where the New Republic is, and he sits down, has a conversation with Carson Teva.
And Filoni and who else is in the background?
Filoni is in the background. Rick Famuyiwa is in the background. Deborah Chow is in the background. And so we see these
little scenes.
I know, they're so cool. We see these directors in the background. And then Mando's having the conversation with Carson that, The New Republic can't control the Outer Rim. I've got this apprentice. I'm not really interested in doing some seedy work for gangsters as a bounty hunter anymore. I need a little bit more reputable work. Din wants to basically be a private contractor for the New Republic to go catch bounties for them and really be an imp hunter, which this is going to slap for next season.
Right, yeah. This would be like, if the New Republic has a problem and they can't expressly go solve it, they're going to ring up Din and say, Din, I have a mission for you.
Right.
Do you choose to accept it?
This is and it's going to be a return to form. My prediction is it's going to be a return to form to the Western-y feel from season 1. I mean, first episode of season 1, the Mandalorian walks into that bar, and he comes in and he gets Mithril, and we see him on the end of an episode, and it's like, that's the feel that whole first season had, was the Western, and this guy's...
Grizzled.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, in the dialogue, you can come with me cold, or you can come with me... What do you say?
I can take you in warm, or I can take you in cold. And so I think season 4, he may not be bounty hunting people who are, skimping out on gambling debts. Now he's going to be bounty hunting Imperials, but it's going to be the same kind of flow and storytelling.
Right. No, and I'm so pumped. I think this is the return, another return that we're talking about here. I talked about this a little bit in the rapid reactions, but this is the reconstitution of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sidestep from the main story, and now we're returning to our original programming.
Right. Yeah, the story got really grand, really big. Not really quickly. I mean, it developed in a really good, healthy way, but now it's like we're returning back to Din's roots. And there will be a new big threat. And Ahsoka will help set that up, and we'll have a lot to talk about there. But this is the big result there.
Coming down the pipeline.
Exactly. So the last thing they need is he wants his advance payment, an IG head sitting on their trophy wall. They take this IG head for parts, as Din says, and then we cut to Navarro. And it's Grief Karga standing in town center talking to Din. There's a small crowd, and Grief is saying, for all that you've done, we're going to give you this small cottage. He says cabin. Yeah, that's the exact word. On the outskirts of town, you can stay there with your new family in between adventures. And so then Din says, I have a present for you. And in strides brand new IG-11 Marshal of Navarro.
He's even got some markings on his chest to make him stand out or differentiate him from the past.
This was an awesome idea, man.
Awesome idea.
I mean, it was so obvious but it never even crossed my mind. We were talking about, what if Cobb Vanth leaves Tatooine and becomes the Navarro Marshal? No, IG-11 is the perfect Marshal here.
Their savior returned.
Yes, exactly. He already has become he is already the hero of Navarro. Now he gets to continue to serve them. I mean, it's exciting. All the townsfolk are really excited. It's cool. And so after IG-11 is welcomed with open arms, we get the final scene, which I loved, man.
Oh, I mean, gosh.
The final scene.
We're getting chills talking about it right now, Carl.
I know. It was so cool. You just have Din sitting on a stool with his legs kicked up against a small house.
This is a country house. We drive by. I know people who live in houses like this.
Right. Just a couple bedrooms, front door, front porch. There's a pond, one tree in the front, and his son Grogu is just playing with a frog using the Force in the water. And you can't see Din's face, but this is like the most contented, happy. This is your Star Wars happy ending. This is your Return of the Jedi ending. This is your Rise of Skywalker ending. This is your Phantom Menace ending. Like, this is the bad guys lost, the good guys won, and all is good. We know it's not permanent, but that's the finality of this episode, is it makes you feel like it could be permanent. If The Mandalorian ended on this episode, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be sad we're losing one of my favorite shows on TV, but I wouldn't be upset with the direction the story took. And it was just really, really fun.
Yeah, the last little bit of this it's not just a cut to credits. It's a transition that does a circle around Grogu and Din Djarin. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so
the Irish transition.
Exactly. That made my heart skip a beat. Not just how thankful I am for this season, but this father-son relationship and the potential for the future.
I know.
I mean, the Force user, how powerful Grogu's going to be.
Right.
The relationship, how that develops. It's going to be so fun.
There were some people clowning on the little Irish transition, And if that was what bothered you about this episode, you have no fun. You just can't have any
Get your
fun.
stick out of the mud, man.
Yeah, come on. Like, it was neat. It wasn't offensive in any way. It was just cute. It was new. We'd never seen it in Star Wars before, but it's not like a pioneering shot or anything. And so I really liked it. And I will just say, look at Revenge of the Sith when they transition away from Padme's funeral to C-3PO on A New Hope. It looks like he's doing the Looney Tunes exit because of the way that it zooms into his face. I mean, if you're going to complain about transitions in Star Wars, go there first. But the last thing I'll say on the last scene is that we have the little orphan boy who has been adopted in his farm hut, and he's force sensitive. And it is a parallel to Luke. And we stuck on our Twitter another parallel of Luke's hut against this hut. And it's just the little farm homestead is exactly in line with George's vision. It's exactly what the kind of story Lucas wanted to tell. It's exactly this kind of idyllic lifestyle that you can have out in this rural area with Din and Bo and where they are right now. Or not Din and Bo, I'm sorry. I wish it was Din and Bo. With Din and Grogu out there where they are now.
She's on Mandalore rebuilding the planet.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying I want the relationship.
I think one of the first scenes in the next one is going to be her little ship lands and it's like, oh, I had a hard day at work.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I'm glad to be home.
Din's got dinner ready. He's like, how was work today? How was leading Mandalore? You're right. But yeah, so just that little parallel alone made it for me. This episode was just
you could have
awesome.
said that better, and it triggered something. You know, the Filoni Enterprise, Ahsoka, and we can say Ezra Bridger, right? And now Grogu. These are Force users who are expressly not Jedi, right?
I would disagree with that.
Well,
with
Ahsoka
that
is not a Jedi.
No, Ahsoka is a Jedi.
She would disagree.
She said she was not a Jedi in season 2 of Rebels. However, after she is pulled back through with her confrontation with Darth Vader on Malachor, she accepts the role of a Jedi. And in the latest trailer, she is monikered as a Jedi, and she is referred to as a Jedi throughout the rest of the material between these eras.
Well,
so I would say that, and Ezra is also a Jedi. He never renounces any connection to the Jedi.
Well, but there's no Jedi Order, right?
There is no Jedi Order. That is absolutely true.
So my only point is that, you know, like in comic books and some of this other, we have these different factions. We have evil, which is Imperials and some other stuff. We have the Jedi, the light, and then we have like usually scum and villainy, but these bounty hunters, and this would be like a light side bounty hunter type faction, if you will. And so this could be like a the farm. You know, if Luke Skywalker is the orphan farm boy for the light side, and Anakin Skywalker is not a farm boy, but he's an orphan. He's not an orphan, but became one,
right?
I guess.
Sure.
Sort of, whatever. But he's a lost person. We'll say that, right? And Grogu is a bona fide orphan / lost person.
Right.
This is be like the non-Jedi orphan farm boy story.
Right.
That's totally made up off the cuff.
No, I get it. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
To quote George
right.
Lucas. But no, I think you're right. And just taking a look at this ending, taking a look at where this story went and where Jon Favreau took this story, this was a stellar ending. I'm upset with myself that I was so critical of this episode on my first watch through. That I was just kind of bummed. My expectations were too high. It was all my fault because it really put this whole season together. It made sense. We got where we were going. Again, I won't say that there weren't ups and downs on the season. There were episodes I liked better than others. Was my least favorite episode of the series also in this season? Yes. Were some of my favorite episodes of all time in this season? Also yes. And so it may have been a roller coaster, but this destination was worth the ride. It was worth the price of admission.
Oh my gosh, was it ever? The return of Mandalore. I probably sound like a broken record on this thing, but there's so many implications for what's going to happen in the future with the Mandalorians, with Grogu, with the galaxy as a whole, and with all of our favorite characters. You know, I want to repeat this till I'm blue in the face, but Mama Bo, please.
I know. I agree. The last little bit that I'll say on this is, do you think that Pedro Pascal was on set ever for this season?
I don't know.
Do you think he did everything in a sound booth? Because we didn't see his face.
And that's a question mark, a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one.
Because I don't, we speculated about a lot of stuff, like if he's going to have some sort of awakening or change factions or whatever. And so I mean, because this is a notable challenge that he's made mention in the past, right? It's like, and it's challenging for actors to be emotive behind a mask.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And he's very good at it.
It happens rarely. Obviously we have Darth Vader. He's the most prominent example from the 70s. But there's rare examples like Judge Dredd, and you can see his mouth. It's a frown the whole time, but it still lends to the authenticity of that character and how cool it is. Carl Urban, thank you. And but it's not something that lends to a happy actor, because they are paid very well for their services. And then what was the guy who? You got Katie Sackhoff showing her face the whole time. It's got to be something that, like, you're not being brought to your total full potential here.
Sure. And, Pedro is such a sought-after actor. I mean, he's been in so much. He's got The Last of Us now. He was in Game of Thrones. Like, he's a big-time actor. And so I don't think he's going away from this. I mean, The Mandalorian, he was famous after Game of Thrones. But The Mandalorian is what cemented him as a household name.
Right.
And so I think that he enjoys the project, but it's interesting. It's like, how much would he enjoy the project if he had to be on set the whole time? How much would he enjoy the project if there was no mask? And so how easy is it for him to step into a sound booth and bust out 8 episodes? Like, how long do you think it takes him? I mean, a couple weeks maybe to bust out? I don't know. This is, to preface this, I have no concept of how Hollywood works.
Right.
I don't know an actor's schedule. I don't know what it's like recording in a sound booth. I don't know about any of this stuff and how these big budget productions are really made down in the nitty gritty. But I can't imagine that it takes you as long to film a whole season as it does to record dialogue for a whole season.
Right. And then we're just going to have to keep our finger on the pulse. Hopefully he shows up to a Comic-Con panel and somebody asks him these questions or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we'll report that, certainly, whenever we get any kind of information like that. With that, 16 straight weeks of Star Wars content on television comes to a close. We got, from the very beginning of Bad Batch, now to The Mandalorian, nonstop Star Wars TV. It was a treat. It was tiring, but it was a treat. And now we're going to have a little bit of a drought. We don't get our next full ongoing series until August with Ahsoka. We're going to have 2 projects come out on May 4th. The Young Jedi Adventures and Visions Season 2. We're both pumped for Visions Season 2. Not sure we'll watch The Young Jedi Adventures. We might make passing mention. Okay, you're going to watch The Young Jedi Adventures. Let me say, not sure we'll do a podcast dedicated to The Young Jedi Adventures.
I have kids who I need invested in my hobbies.
You're right. So we will have some Young Jedi Adventure commentary of some form. But that's just a little May 4th blip. I mean, we're going to kill those both in a day. I mean, we'll be able to watch them all the way through. There's no way we're not going to. And so really the next big project on the horizon is 8 days away, and that is Jedi Survivor. We're super excited. Fun. It's going to be awesome.
How many hours? Like, I know 100% takes a long time, and I don't know if we'll get that far, but just the general story gameplay is going to be, 20 hours? Could be up to 40, depending on how far they go with it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that, like you said, to 100%, they said 99 hours. And so for the full game, I guess probably 30. I'll land in between the numbers you threw out. I will give you this fact. For PC, it is 155 gigabytes.
Oh my God. So that's a lot of cutscenes or something.
Yeah.
High quality textures. Well, so I'll say this, we weren't doing the podcast when Fallen Order came out. I wish we were, because there was a major reveal at the end of that, which, Star Wars games, they don't have the highest priority for some of this stuff. Of course, it's a very widely consumed media, but like it wasn't even mentioned at the Star Wars Celebration at all.
No,
was it?
I mean, Survivor was the sponsor, and the only thing with Survivor at all was some new gameplay footage, and we already have a lot of gameplay footage.
Right. So, I mean, like, this is like tidbits we're getting at this Star Wars Celebration. So my point is that there was this big reveal last time. It was Darth Vader showing up at the end, and everybody, you go punch up in YouTube Jedi Fallen Order reaction videos, and it's to Darth Vader showing up.
Right.
How cool that was. So we don't have any clue what's going to be in Survivor, but they're good story writers. And with 150 gigabytes backing it up, it's going to be a fantastic deal, which we are going to make our very best to stream as much as we can of this thing.
Yeah, let's all take an appreciation wherever you're sitting. Do a little golf clap right here, because Colin just helped me rearrange the office to where now I have a good streaming background. We moved the Star Wars bookshelf behind the desk, so now I'll have like a good look for a stream here. And so I'll be streaming that with a camera. Don't have anything set up. We'll have it all set up by next week, ready to stream.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. And, Colin and I are not going to be taking shifts, but we're definitely going to be filling the Twitch and the YouTube and the brand new Star Wars Station Kick with all of our gaming content as much as we can while Jedi Survivor's out. And we're going to do 1 or 2 podcasts about it. But that wraps up the meat of this episode. Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 24, The Return, was a great return to form. We're headed back to the Western style. We got a lot of plot lines wrapped up. We're in a comfortable spot, and I couldn't be happier. And now all we got to do is wait a little while. Filming starts in October for Season 4.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. We're going to do all the speculations. Normally we do a lot of speculation right here, right? But
right.
We're going to see. I mean, literally we know they're going to go on adventures.
Right.
But there's a lot to do with what these adventures could be.
Well, and there's a reason we don't have an Always in Motion segment for this. And that's because in 2 days, on Saturday, April 22nd, at 3:15 p.m. Central Time, we are going to be at the Yellow City Comic-Con in Amarillo, Texas, doing a live panel. And this live stream panel is going to be all of our speculations for Season 4 of The Mandalorian. And so be sure, if you're in Amarillo, Texas, or near Amarillo, Texas, or want to catch a last-minute flight, come see us in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are super duper excited for this event. We really can't wait. It's going to be a great time. And if you're not able to make it in person, we're going to be live streaming this event on Twitch, on YouTube, hopefully on Kick. I've got to figure that out in 2 days' time, so I'm not promising that one. And Instagram Live. So follow us on those platforms and be sure to look us out. Get the chat going. We are really excited. This is our second con live stream appearance, third con live stream appearance, second con panel, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, lots of speculation on Season 4, and Katie O'Brien, who plays Elia Kane, is at this convention. She might pop by the panel. We don't know. We have no idea. No guarantees at all. But we'll see what we can do to try and make that happen.
Yeah, well, let's get some Imperial stuff there. Maybe we'll entice her over.
Yeah, exactly.
Come to the dark side.
So we are now going to jump into our next segment. We're going to skip Always in Motion and head right into How the Force Works.
That's not how the Force works.
All right, Colin. This question comes from our Patreon subscriber, Loaf. And this question is, how did Gideon seemingly destroy the Darksaber that has a Beskar hilt?
Do you want to take this first or me?
I think you can go ahead. I'll fill in the gap after you.
Power armor. No, seriously, I'm a big Warhammer 40K fan. Power armor uses a lot of advanced technology. I would assume so even in the Star Wars universe. Not many people touch this. It's kind of like a solely 40K thing. You have Starship Troopers. If you go back and read the book, it's not something you'll see in movies or anything, but all of those guys, they're akin to guerrillas. It's like what the Dark Troopers would look like from Season 2, right? And you even hear the servo's whir as he crushes it. So usually these things have some sort of ultra superhuman strength, like a hydraulic crusher almost, or something like that. And I think it's just that simple.
Right. So we know that Beskar is nigh impenetrable, but it's not impenetrable. We know this because in the second season, the armorer takes Din's Beskar spear and forges it into Grogu's chainmail shirt. And she says that a Mandalorian should not have a Beskar weapon because the only reason to have a Beskar weapon is to pierce Beskar. And so Gideon says his suit is made of Beskar, so the only thing that's able to destroy that Beskar hilt other than a lightsaber cutting through it is other Beskar. And so that's why it's Gideon's Beskar fist powered by the power armor that Colin just mentioned. And so it's a combination of those two factors that allows him to crush that like it's, a stick.
Yeah, look at the punches he was throwing. If you go back and watch this episode, Din and Bo-Katan, he would punch them and they would go flying across the room. And so if you have even a modicum knowledge of physics, for every action, there's an opposite reaction. And so like if you go to punch something and it goes flying across the room, that same force that made that thing fly across the room is exerted on whatever did the punching. And it's kind of silly because it's a TV show, right? But he didn't go flying back the other way.
Right,
right. So he was able to exert that force with the power armor to make between 130 to 200 wearing full Mando armor. So like these guys are bulky. I don't know how they scaled the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. But with the force of the power armor that Gideon was wearing, he's able to send these guys 20 feet across the room.
Yes.
And sailing in some cases.
Yes.
So, I mean, do not discount the force that he was. I mean, in the 40K canon, if these guys exert a punch on a non-armored target, it liquefies organs. So if we even partially attune that over here, if Din and Bo weren't wearing Beskar Mando armor, it would have broken bones
Cratered
and
their
liquefied
chest.
organs.
Yep.
So I think the Darksaber being crushed, I feel sorry for Bo's hand.
Oh yeah.
But it's not a large feat. I mean, this is a stick.
Yeah, it is a stick to that. So great question, Loaf. We appreciate it. Loaf asked last week's question. If you want to get in on how the Force works, you can check out our Patreon. It's a Patreon tier. It's the Jedi Knight tier level and above. So come ask me and Colin questions. Answer any kind of question about Star Wars, Lucasfilm, favorite thing of some kind of thing, anything you want. You can go over there to ask it, and we're going to be slotting these in.
Reason.
Well, yeah, within reason. I mean, we obviously have the final say, but...
Yeah, PG questions.
Yes, PG questions, but we know our followers out there, they understand that Star Wars is a family program. I think we harp on the family programness enough that I hope that our patrons are respectful enough. And so, go check it out. Go check our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Star Wars Station. So, we are not just skipping How the Force, or Always in Motion. We're skipping one more segment today. So, going to be a little shorter episode than normal, but we're skipping the HoloNet news segment because Celebration was just a week and a half ago. I mean, we just had Star Wars Celebration. There's not a lot of news for us to cover right now. And so, new Star Wars news will be coming to light very soon, but we just don't have much information to cover right now.
Yeah, and it's coming down the pipe, I'm sure, but it's not going to be Mandalorian. It's going to be Ahsoka news and Jedi Survivor,
right?
Whatever it is, news. We'll get to that.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got shows filming right now. Andor's filming. Mandalorian will start filming in October. Acolyte's filming right now. So we'll have news coming. It just hasn't. This week's been a little dry. And so we're going to skip the HoloNet news segment, and we're going to jump straight into our Star Wars moment of the week.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Colin, you alluded to your Star Wars moment of the week earlier. You were really excited to mention it. So, come on. What's your Star Wars moment of the week?
So, I hope I make you a little bit envious on this one. You've been posting about your character poster.
Right, about the need for that poster to get released.
I have one.
Yeah, Sans Mech Grogu.
Sans Mech Grogu. I got this poster from eBay from an attendee from this was an exclusive poster that they handed out at Star Wars Celebration in London. I heard about this piece of news, and I had to get my hands on one. It was not expensive at all. And I only saw one other one on there. So it went to some other lucky person out there. Maybe there's more out there, but yeah, the most glaring thing is there's no Mecha Grogu on there.
Right.
But I have one.
Are the Praetorian Guards on there?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not that I can see.
No, well, they would on the one they released, they were in the middle down. So,
okay. So yeah, no, nothing like this.
But it's the same as it's other than no Met Grogu and the Praetorian Guards.
Yeah, the most prominent character is obviously Din Djarin, and then Bo-Katan, Greef Karga, Armor, Grogu, Pelimoto, Pershing, the Anzellans, Carson Teva, R5D4, the N1 Starfighter, and Eli Kane are on this poster.
Which I gotta say, Pelimoto being on this poster.
That's strange.
Well, it's only strange that Paz isn't on the poster.
Yeah, why is he on the poster and he's not?
The Anzellans are on the poster, R5's on the poster, Pelimoto's on the poster. These were all important characters. Paz Vizsla died last episode.
Heroically.
Yes, he sacrificed himself for Mandalore. And so it's just, I don't know, I was a little confused on why was that the decision. But that's a super cool poster. I am envious because those are the best Star Wars posters, is when they release these full character posters. I've got my prized Return of the Jedi one hanging on my wall. And so these are just my favorite kinds of Star Wars
so
posters.
I'm sure there's a lot of this one out there, but there are going to be more of the one with with Mecha Grogu and the Praetorian Guard and whoever else. I haven't looked at it that close. But that's the one for public consumption. This is the one that not everybody can get. And I got one.
Right. But you didn't go to Celebration.
No, I didn't. But whatever.
So my Star Wars moment of the week is certainly more underwhelming than that one, but it's about the future of this podcast because, as I alluded to earlier, I sat down and watched Jedi Knight, which is my favorite episode of Rebels, and it is part of my favorite arc in Rebels, which is Rebel Assault and Jedi Knight, the two episodes combined. And so we have a really exciting announcement for our podcast, and that we have been working on a new podcast series that we're going to release on our Patreon for patrons to listen to called Arc Troopers. So we are going to be releasing these episodes sporadically. They won't be on any kind of time schedule, but they will be releasing many at once. And so we will be reviewing, not really reviewing, more like having a conversation about our favorite arcs of any Star Wars property. So our favorite arcs from the Clone Wars, our favorite arcs from Rebels, our favorite arcs from Andor, our favorite arcs from Mandalorian, just yada, yada, yada. Any of these that kind of touch on just a short 3 episodes, a short 4 episodes that all connect together. We're just going to deliver a little bit of commentary on that. It's something that one of our patrons had kind of spurred in our head that they wanted to hear. And so that's what we're doing. And our very first episode will be about the Jedi Knight arc. And so we are really excited to deliver that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And there's so many arcs out there. And I think we talked about like maybe having a guest star or something. One of our friends or whoever else would want to have their favorite arc that they want to talk about.
Yep.
Come in and talk about that so you can get a more diverse perspective out there.
Right.
Because, I mean, be hard pressed. Maybe there's some episodes of the Clone Wars or a couple of Visions things that don't rise to the level, right? But I mean, 90% of it's like really top notch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But,
if someone wanted to talk about D Squad, we've got it as a Patreon level. If you're a patron, to come on and talk with us and to have an episode with us, and we'd love to record an episode with anybody. If you want to talk about the D Squad, you can make me rewatch those 4 episodes.
But, I know some people who are super passionate about certain arcs.
Yes.
And so having them on to have their perspective is going to be extremely valuable.
Right. We're super excited about this. So that's my Star Wars moment of the week. And Colin, that wraps up the podcast for this week. Yeah. We had an awesome time with The Mandalorian Season 3. You got any final thoughts on Mando Season 3?
Let's save them for the... If you want to hear my final thoughts, tune in to our live broadcast. I mean, that's the best place to cap it up for me. I mean, because there's a lot to cover. I need to go rewatch some key scenes. I want to develop a timeline in my head to give that question its due.
Yep.
Look at this season 3 in its totality, and deliver what is the best answer I can give to that question. I can give some low-hanging fruits, but we have some disagreements. I didn't think there was a bad episode in this. You disagree with that? That's fine. But hey, that's Star Wars. We're
Yeah.
having a great time.
Right. And so I think you're right. I'll save my final thoughts also for the live broadcast, but I will say this episode was awesome. We had a great time recording this. We have had an awesome time going through The Mandalorian. This is only the second series that we've done a podcast on every single episode. We did the Bad Batch in 4-episode chunks. We did Andor all at once. And so the only one we did was Kenobi. And it's just a lot of fun getting together every week and being able to share our thoughts and to share them with you guys and see the way y'all comment and the way we talk on the Discord. So we really appreciate it. With that being said, check us out on Discord. We got a Discord link.
It's popping.
It is popping. It's growing fast. And so we've got a Discord link in the link of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it. It's also on our Instagram. You can check out our Instagram, which is StarWars.station. You can check out our Twitter, which was lit up today. I was tweeting off the chain today.
Didn't something special happen on that? I thought you texted me something happened there on that Twitter thing.
I did, yeah. We got a like from Katie O'Brien, who plays Elia Kane, who we're going to see in a couple days. So, yeah, that was really cool. We were super excited for that. And so check out our Twitter. That's SW_station. Like I said, you can find our Discord link in the bio. We've got a YouTube channel, Star Wars Station. We put up a lot of shorts over there. We got a lot of YouTube shorts that kind of help as primers for our podcasts. You should go check those out. As we mentioned, we're going to be streaming on YouTube, Kick, and on Twitch. Colin, what's our Twitch?
Twitch.tv/Station Media.
And so you can check us out there to see all of our Jedi Survivor gameplay.
Yeah, man, that's going to be so fun. Whatever twists and turns, we've talked about it a lot on here.
I know.
That one, I think the most prominent thing is the alien that's just nerves. You know the name, I don't know.
Right, Dirge's species. Which is that. What is the name of those guys? You put me on the spot again, and now I can't remember. But you're right that they were introduced, and they are just. I can't believe we're getting one so prominently in canon. Yeah, exactly. In the 2003 non-canon Tartakovsky Clone Wars. Jindai is the name of the species.
Yeah.
And so we're getting that. I'm most excited for the High Republic antagonist. I think that's a crazy cool concept.
Something they haven't alluded to at all is the Utapau Powin, however you say
the
that.
Powin Senator that was only in the first teaser trailer.
Yeah.
And we know that we got some Inquisitors returning. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So check out our Twitch, our YouTube, and our Kick for that one. Other than that, please check us out on our Patreon. Our Patreon helps keep us going. We got a lot of good communities all over the place, but the best Station Nation community is over on Patreon.
And that thing is popping off too, not in a sense of, hey, there's more people showing up, but we've got a lot of stuff coming through the pipeline.
Yes, we've got lots of rewards over there
that are coming to fruition, and the future is really bright when it comes to that.
Yes, no, and we are super grateful to all of our Patreon subscribers. Like I said, you keep us going. Go check it out. We've got an RPG coming up. Like we just announced, we've got ARC Troopers coming up. We've got access to a book club that's going to be starting really, really soon. If you haven't been reading any of the new Star Wars canon books, come check it out. We might be reading the Canon Thrawn series. We got a lot of options.
Yeah, both of us, and Carter inspires me all the time to pick up some of these books. But there are so many that are so good. They're so fun to read. Don't get me wrong. There's some stinkers out there, but you can't bat 1,000.
Right.
So,
right.
But even then, they're so fun. What's the one I always harp on? Shadows of the Sith.
Yeah, we are firm Adam Christopher lovers here. But yeah, I mean, we read definitely more Star Wars books than we talk about on the podcast. I mean, while The Mandalorian's been on, I think I put away 3. And so it's just, if you want to talk about Star Wars novels with us, go check out the Patreon at the $5 tier. Join this book club. Come vote on the book that you want to talk about, because we're going to be putting it to a vote soon. And so if you want to talk about the new Canon Thrawn series, go over there. We're going to be putting a few more out there for people to vote on what we're going to tackle first.
Comic books count as books too.
Comic books do count as books too. And so please come hit us up over there on Patreon. We really appreciate it. That's patreon.com/Star Wars Station. Also, if you can't hit us up on Patreon, that's fine, because the number one thing you can do to support us is leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We've gotten a lot recently, and we've been very happy. It's, guys, I texted a review that we got today to Colin, just because it brightens our day. It lights up our day. It is amazing to be getting good reviews and to be knowing that people out there enjoy your content. So please, if you do enjoy our content, let us know about it. We want to know what we're doing good. We want to know what we're not doing good. Please just let us know. But, go out there, shout us out. That is the best way you can help us.
Yeah, we love feedback so much, positive and negative.
Right. So don't forget to go check us out on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening here, you probably have a podcast home that you enjoy. And share us with your friends and family. The Mandalorian's over, but I know that you and your gaming buddies are going to be playing Jedi Survivor. I know y'all are going to be sitting down. Y'all are going to be talking about it. Y'all are going to be talking about it in Discord. Come talk about it in our Discord, because we're going to have a lot of other fans talking about it. And come watch us on Twitch. Come join the chats. We just got a lot of things going on, guys, and we want you to be a part of it.
Yep. And so, I think I said it in the rapid reaction. It feels like a family member's gone away. 16 weeks, you said.
Yes. Yep.
It's the end of a little bitty era here, and I'm going to miss talking about the Mandalorian a lot.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be a lot. It'll be less early mornings that I'll miss. I mean, I enjoyed waking up on Wednesdays because Tuesday night I was ready for bedtime.
Right.
My wife goes to bed earlier than me, except on Tuesdays.
The meme that I've been loving going around is it's the reel or the TikTok out there. What is that cartoon? The Incredibles. Where are you guys going? It's Wednesday.
Yep. It is Wednesday.
And next Wednesday, well, that can happen. Big tear for that.
Sadly. But it'll be back in August with Ahsoka. We'll be back in August with Ahsoka.
We're going to be back a lot more before that.
Oh, certainly.
Podcast is not stopping.
No, podcast isn't stopping. We've got content from now until Ahsoka. We've got our episode schedule ready. We've got a lot of exciting stuff.
Ahsoka.
Yes.
So pumped for this.
But guys, we've got a lead up to Ahsoka. We're not going to reveal what we're doing yet, but we've got quite a few episodes that are going to prime us for Ahsoka. We did a couple primers for The Mandalorian. We're doing a lot for
Now
Ahsoka.
that you mentioned that, you must tune in. When Ahsoka arrives on your TV screen, if you listen to this podcast, you will be the most knowledgeable, the most prepared, and then you can circle back and listen to our rapid reactions of Ahsoka, listen to the full episodes about Ahsoka, and you will not miss a beat.
Right.
Everything, all knowledge will be at your breast.
We're going to be all eyes on Ahsoka. We're super excited for it. We appreciate you guys joining us on this journey. And I think that's it. Until next week, keep it wizard.